Hello, everybody. My name is Alexandra with This is Improv, and we are here for another episode of Talk About It Tuesday, where we talk about all things the arts and the people who love them. I am here with the amazing Cody. Hello. Hello. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, a little backstory?
Yeah, sure. So I am an improviser by trade. It's pretty much my main performing biz that I do. I've been performing for about 12 years. I started in high school in about 2006 and did mostly theater and a little bit of improv. Kind of took classes after my teacher got bored of me asking to, or not bored, but more annoyed. That's probably the better word, for asking for more improv classes and workshops and stuff. And so SAC Comedy Lab, that's in downtown Orlando, was offering classes, and I was 17 at the time, and I ended up going to take classes there and made it through over time into their main weekend ensemble, and been performing there as part of their professional ensemble for the last 2.5 years. And I also teach improv as well.
I mean, what was it about improvisation that made you go like, oh, snap, this is it?
I think it was, for me, when I was doing like regular theater, I had a really tough time memorizing stuff. I mean, I did it. I was fine. There was just something restricting to the form. And I think I didn't really know that it was restricting until I started doing more improv. And I realized how much more freeing it felt, kind of being able to create whatever I wanted, using the stage as almost like a canvas and utilizing whatever crud came out of my system.
Yeah.
And just that was my paint in a sense. But I think it was because my theater director at the time, she was very adamant about improv only being an aspect of, if you forget a line in a scene or something that you're doing, you can improvise a little bit. Or if you're trying to stall for somebody else, you can do a little bit of improv. And that was my understanding of what improv was for the first few years. But when I started doing it, I realized it was so much more, and there's so much to it. And the more and more I've kind of spent time and involved in it, it's opened so many different doors for me. I've met so many great people. One of my best friends, I met through taking classes at SAC, and through that performance, I'm going to be his best man at his wedding when kind of slows down, there's just so much to it. There's so much opportunity for creativity, and so many different things have come out of it.
But that's amazing. So you started when you were 17. Did you have any other thoughts of like what you wanted to do before you started doing improv?
I mean, when I was younger,
Plan A, I guess.
Yeah, well, forever, I've always, my main goal has always just to be performing or entertaining people for a living, whether that be in front of the camera or behind the camera, or in this instance, on stage versus off stage. Because I also did tech work and stuff too. I not only did improv classes through SAC, but I also did the lights and sound. I was a tech there for a while. I started as a volunteer and kind of worked my way through there. And in high school, I was like the main tech person for our theater. I did set construction, lights, sound, the typical stuff in that regard. I enjoyed that a lot too. And I enjoyed film as well, and doing camera work and other things like that. So I was comfortable with wherever I was taken in that regard. I felt like kind of open. And the more I discovered there were so many different ventures and stuff. And also, I think the saying technicians get paid is kind of a fair, and really, I was like, yeah, all right, well, if I'm going to make a career out of this, I need to really get into that. And I did for a little bit, but now I'm working in insurance as my regular day job. But then I still am able to do performing and other things. And prior to COVID, I've also been able to travel through Comic-Cons and do Q&A sessions for panels and stuff. So I've got to also meet a bunch of celebrities and run some of those, which has been really cool. It's just so many different things that have kind of come out of it.
Yeah. You find that a lot, that it's ends up being such a small world in the performance space that like everyone
Yeah.
tends to know each other. I mean, just like now I had a student that was one of my friends from college. It's also his student. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
hey.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I went to I don't know if you listen to any of the Earwolf stuff, like if you're a podcast person, if you listen to Earwolf is one of the networks, and it has like Comedy Bang Bang and Spontaneous Nation with Paul F. Tompkins, which a lot of great improv podcast that's mainly based of the UCB theater. And they had a big little podcast festival called PCAST Blast a few years back, and I went out there and Paul Scheer. I got to do the meet and greet. I just happened to go out there because I was supposed to do something else, and I don't remember, but I ended up making it a trip to LA. Anyways, so I crossed paths and got to meet Paul Scheer in person, and I mentioned that I was an improviser in Orlando, and he goes, "Oh man, I know somebody that's an actor out in Orlando, but you probably wouldn't know him." And I was like, "I mean, it's a tight knit group. I might." And he goes, "John Telfer," and I was like, "Holy crap, John Telfer directed some of the shows at SAC. He directed, or I guess helped direct one of our shows called The Early Show that was happening at SAC, which was our only long form show for a bit." And I was just like crazy. Apparently, John Telfer, who I knew, and I didn't know that he used to perform at UCB in New York back in the day, or in that regard, and worked with like Andy Daly and a few other like bigger name like back in the day kind of things. And I sat down and talked with him. It's just like, wow, I I would have never guessed. It's so weird how connected people are. I mean, even Wayne Brady came from SAC and has come back to perform shows. It's just weird. Improv is such a tight knit group of people, and theater in general too. Once you kind of know one person, there's some sort of like, what's it like, the Kevin Bacon everybody goes, somehow you can relate it back to Kevin Bacon or something,
right?
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah. So when you're doing improvisation, I always like to ask, what's the feeling like doing in the moment?
When I first started, super nervous, super in my head. Now I'm way more comfortable, but I always find myself just going, okay, how am I gonna start? What's my thing? Am I gonna be this far up stage or this down stage? Like, what's my starting position? And then just kind of feel it from there. So I feel like the starting of a scene is kind of more just, how do I want to start? It's not even like what the content's gonna be. It's more of just like, all right, how can I change this up so it doesn't feel the same as something else that I've already done, kind of a thing. I'm excited though to do shows. I think the only time I ever get nervous now is for people that have never seen me perform and have a totally different light of my life, if that makes sense. Like they haven't ever really experienced me performing or anything of that nature. They've never seen a show or anything. Right. They don't really know kind of like what performing is, it seems. And so that always gets me like, I hope the expectation they have for me is met when I get on stage. Yeah. Not that I don't think I could do well. It's just that always is in the back of my head. And so that always puts me in my head for just like a brief moment. Then I'm like, whatever they think is going to be their thought. I can't control it. And it's gone pretty quickly after that.
Yeah. I remember when my elementary school principal came to my show and I was like, you were my idol. You were like a god when I was little. That initial feeling was like, Mrs. Sandusky's here. I have to be really
okay.
Is my uniform okay?
I can't say anything suggestive. Make sure my posture's good.
I need to make sure my shirt looks all unwrinkled and whatnot, or else.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally understand that feeling.
Yeah, there's something about it. It's just like it only matters whenever it's someone whose opinion you care about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I lucked out in a sense, I guess, in my mind. At least this is how I kind of equivalent it. Like, I feel lucky that I got to start so early doing improv and theater and stuff, because it gave me an opportunity to figure out that people's opinions don't really matter. And that's what's really keeping us back from getting outside of our comfort zone, out of our subconscious that tells us things are not okay to do. which I get to teach level 1 now, which I'm super happy about. And I think I've kind of figured out that nervous tick that we have to keep us in our head is not. And I mean, I don't know that I've necessarily been the first to discover this, but in my head, I've at least discovered it for myself.
Right.
Is that you're told so much as a child to not do that, not do this. You got to think a certain way. You have to be a certain thing. You have to do this. Whereas in improv, it's all about gut instincts. Your gut is actually your best friend. What you feel in that moment is what is the correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times people think they have to say no to that and manufacture something that they think is, because they're already judging their choice before they've even said it.
Right.
And sometimes they don't realize they're doing it. It's a subconscious thing, and it's a habit you have to break. Right at the beginning in level 1, you have to. That's kind of what that is. It's just working to break that habit. And then once you kind of are able to start letting loose a little bit, then you start to have fun. The overcommitment to stuff is what really drives excitement in both yourself and the audience. Like, they want to see someone, like we talk about failure. Failure is so accepted in improv because it's so charming and redeeming. Like, it has a redemption factor for.
It can lead to like the most amazing scenes.
Yeah, there's so much. That's where the discovery comes from. That's where the improv is from what we consider to be failure, but it's not necessarily failure. There really aren't rules except for the restrictions we put on certain like short form games and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's just getting out of that mind space that this is a bad choice or you can't do this. I love seeing those people in my level 1 class that are struggling with that when they finally have it click in their head. It's one of the coolest things to see as a teacher, because it's like, yeah, now you're getting it. Like, because otherwise it just feels like I'm yelling at them. Not necessarily. I don't think I'm yelling at, but it feels like it.
Yeah, yeah. I just finished with my teen class, and it was like that same thing. I have this one student, and he always does this right before he answers me, and I was like, "Put your hand down. That's it. No more hand." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't notice I was doing it." And I was like, "That's it. No more hand. You put your hands under your butt. That's it. You're done."
Yeah.
You just answer me. And he got way faster, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't notice I was doing that before." And it's true. I mean, you have to think of like what you said, what they were brought up to do. Think before you speak, you know? I mean, that's a very common thing. And then when you get into class, breaking that habit of don't think, just say, if it's really bad, I will tell you what's the limit. But there's really none.
Yeah. I try to put that out there. It's like, all right, let's see where it's at. Let's put it out there. And it's like, okay, cool. You got that out of your system. Now let's retract, because otherwise, this isn't a porno. We're not going to sit here and do that. Like, I was like, if you want to go do that, there's a different class for you to take that is not offered by our institution.
That's a different company.
Yeah. But I feel like people are more respective, and I think they just need to get it out of their system, and then they start thinking with the other part of their brain, because it's just, they know that shock value works, but it only works for so long. It's very, very small opportunity before it starts to kind of fall on its ass.
Yeah.
There's also, I think you were talking about just like the mannerism there. I also have, I've had a few students before who get into a point where they start to slow down because their natural demeanor is just more laid back and relaxed, which is okay. That's fine for you as an individual, but unfortunately you have to really push a version of yourself when you're on stage, and you have to create that energy. Even if it feels forced or manufactured, it's going to feel that way at the beginning until you start finding that joy. But you have to put yourself in that position, because if you slow down or if you relax and are feeling that relaxed feeling, then you start to slow down naturally. Yeah. And then it starts to put you in your head, because you don't have enough time or you have too much time to think and not enough time to let your gut be the first reaction. Or I guess it has enough time, but it's too much time.
Right.
And you start second guessing it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's also why warm-ups are so important before you start any heavy lifting of any scene, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like doing the group warm-ups of just like even screaming in each other's faces and then and then starting.
Yeah.
I think helps.
Not as good to do in COVID, but I give it to you.
No. Through the screen, yeah. I'll scream.
Yeah, through the screen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's fair.
That actually leads me to ask, what's your favorite warm-up or everyone has like one or two that they always go to?
I always make fun of Zip Zap Zop, just because it's one I'll always start with, and I know how boring of a game it is, but I will still. It's not my favorite. I just it makes me laugh because every time I'm like, all right, guys, I know what we're gonna start with today. I know what you guys are thinking. What could we possibly be doing first? It's gonna be Zip Zap Zop. I know you guys love it. You guys gotta stop emailing me, because I think if I put it in that light, people actually maybe enjoy the idea of it, but. No, I think that's a good warm-up game. I think the silliest, dumbest game there's two. One that I like that is a good warm-up is called Katie's I think it's Katie's Monster or the Monster game. It was developed, I believe, by a child. I don't know how else to say it. It was a little girl that created it, and the idea is that one person in the circle starts off as a character of some sort of position, the way that they carry themselves, and they walk over to somebody else within the circle and deliver some non-secular line, and then they take over that position, and that person they delivered it to has to now recreate that same exact character, the way the posture was delivered, the cadence, everything, to somebody else in the circle. And it kind of becomes a game of telephone in a sense.
Right.
But it's the silliest, weirdest thing, but it gives I think it really works out the listening and focus muscles, at least in warm-up sense, because you really have to pay attention to what the person's giving you, so you're really focused on your scene partner in that moment. And it's just so silly. It's just so dumb. And watching everybody's version of each other is so funny. I love that a lot. And the other one I think is Bunny Bunny, which is almost, it feels like a bit of a cult chant because it kind of is. I don't know if you're familiar with that game.
It sounds familiar.
So the idea is that everybody's in a circle. It's another circle game.
Yeah.
One person is passing a thing that goes, they do this to themselves. They do bunny, bunny, little bunny ears, bunny to themselves twice, bunny, bunny, and they pass it to somebody else with 2 fingers, bunny, bunny. Yeah, so they pass that. And then on the sides of them are 2 different people, right? So they are facing the person that has the bunny, bunny, and they're, because of my Zoom background, they wave their hands like jazz hands to the person and say toki 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 in cadence with the bunny bunny. And then if you're not one of those 3 roles at that moment, you are keeping the beat by going kunja kunja kunja. Yes. And that's what makes it feel like a cult. And it's
most circle games go.
yes I feel like I have to preface every introduction to a circle game going, this is going to be another game that feels dumb, but I promise there's a lesson behind it,
right?
And so because it's just like and then once you've introduced it, at least the first couple of classes, and they're like, okay, we get it, every one of these are like that. It's like, yeah,
this is a Mr. Miyagi effect on every single game you do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one. And then Where Have My Fingers Been? I would say those are my top 3. It sounds terrible. It sounds like an awfully gross game, but it's really not. That one's pretty easy. It's so it's everybody has little finger puppets, and the idea is that someone will sniff their fingers, as in where have they been, to give them a location as like an offer. And so I would give you a location, and then you do a quick 3-line scene with your finger puppets. That's it. And so the idea is like, we want to get out enough information to feel like it's somewhat of a story, like an introduction of a story. We don't want like, the baseball game was good. Yep, sure was. Got popcorn? That didn't really tell me anything. but I want to have like some sort of depth, a little bit of like a who, what, where, kind of what their point of view is, just in the first little 3 lines, not giving me so much exposition where it's going to take 30 to 45 seconds, especially if you have a group of 15, that'll take forever. But that game is fun, and it's very silly. And then after the person is done with their scene, we go, and that's where my fingers have been. And then we sing together, where have my fingers been? Say, where have my fingers been? Say, what? Where have my fingers been? Say, where have my fingers been? And then the person that just went sniffs their fingers and points to somebody in the circle that hasn't gone and gives them a location. Yeah. So SAC mainly is short form, and that's mainly what we do. I don't know if you guys do more long form.
We do more short form, and then when we're teaching classes, we also do long form, but it's mostly, especially performance wise, we mostly do short form.
Do you feel that long form is harder to do down here than it is north, or is it the same in terms of like feeling wise? Was it hard to do there too?
I feel like it might have felt easier for me to do there, just because it was we were never going to see each other after that week.
Yeah.
So I feel like the weight of it was not like, oh, we're going to come back to it and be like, okay, maybe we should have done this. Maybe we should have done that. This is how we need to work better together. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it was a little bit freer when we were learning it over there. But down here, it's more like, we mostly perform with the company. So
right.
It's more of like, I know all your secrets. So
yeah. Have you guys had Dave Rosowski come there to you guys?
That sounds familiar. Not to us. He wasn't one of our teachers. But...
He was Second City, though. Early on, he was in the time of Colbert and Steve Carell.
Yes.
He's done a few intensives at SAC, and they are intense. The first time I took his class, I got yelled at, and it was I don't know if I can cuss on your YouTube channel, so I won't.
If it's bad, I'll do a little duck noise. So.
Okay. Well, I'll censor myself. He said, "F your agenda, go back and redo it." Like me just thinking I was doing something normal, he kept saying it over and over. Just F your agenda, go back and redo. I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. But then I think it was like last year I got to retake a class of his that while he was here prior to COVID, and a lot better. I felt better about myself, and I think he'd also gotten less yelly. But he has some his philosophy is really great. I just love learning from different teachers and different instructors, because I think that makes you a better artist in general. And you
can never stop learning. I mean, Angelica and I just started doing the improv level 1 for UCB virtual.
Oh, nice.
Because we were like, we teach all day. We started doing that last Sunday. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. New environment, new people. Hello, friends. Let's start again,
Yes. Yeah, it's nice to get notes when you've been giving notes for so long, because you're like, oh yeah, I need to check myself for a moment and re-humble myself, because I'm not a hot shot. I don't know everything. There are things to be learned. Yeah, I love that. I've been thinking about taking another workshop soon, because SAC is doing in-person classes again, and in-person shows. We've been doing everything masked and socially distant with the performers as well as our guests, and have reduced our audience sizes to 30%, and then our class sizes are smaller to a certain degree, but everybody is masked throughout the entire point of that as well. It's been interesting. It's been nice to be back around people and being able to perform a little bit. And
how was it doing improv virtually for you?
I actually haven't had to do many virtual shows. I've done a few, but even then, the shows were in person for the cast, and it was not in person for
The audience.
the audience. Yeah. So that aspect was a little bit different. So I mean, I'm part of another group called Mamas, which is Mama's Comedy Show. That's a more raunchy, kind of goes more blue group. And we were performing for a bit, and we were doing a few different shows. We were doing our standard shows like towards the beginning of COVID, when we first were kind of like, once things got cleared and quarantine was kind of starting to loosen or lessen, I guess, in restrictions. And those went well. I thought those were fun. It was just hard to really determine what people's reactions were. So you just kind of relied on each other's laughter and enjoyment to kind of keep the energy flowing and moving forward. We lucked out because Todd Farron, who runs our group, has a great setup. He had, and his wife, they opened their house to us to kind of do it. And it's just a small cast of 4, including him. And so she would be on a controller, basically switching between a couple different cameras in his living room space. So, and he had a pretty good light setup and mics. So, because he works, I think, that on the side, kind of doing video editing and other things like that. So he and his friend kind of helped make that setup. So I feel kind of lucky in that respect, because we had an opportunity to have a really good setup for our audience. But we haven't really done a show in quite some time. So I think we're trying to find another space, but yeah, that's the only virtual improv I've really done. We've done a few little podcast kind of open discussion, because before our Mama shows, we would do like a podcast. And so we're utilizing Zoom to kind of live stream that a little bit and have conversations. And that's kind of what turned me on to starting to do Twitch, which is now a new thing I'm doing. And I'm trying that out as almost like a performance virtually, like almost like a solo improv performance, but not an improv performance, because I'm not really improvising. I'm just being a version of me, which is, I don't know. It's hard to quantify in a sense. It's just like, it's me playing video games, but I am doing a show in a sense.
Yeah, right. You know? Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah. So it's that vibe of like, I am myself, yet I am a gamer now.
Yeah. Well, I've always played games. Like video games has been another one of my passions outside of improv. Like improv and video games, that's pretty much what almost every straight white male probably does. Other than sports. I mean, let's be real. It's I'm not exciting. Other than doing improv. No, I enjoy playing video games, and I wanted to try and have the two, because I feel like I'm not great at sketch writing. And I don't feel like I have that work ethic to really write stuff. I have ideas, but I feel like work better when I collab with other people.
I understand. I feel like I'm the same way. That's why my sister and I balance each other. So she's an amazing writer, just like such an amazing writer. And I'm a ping pong that will just bounce from wall to wall. And I will say the first thing that comes to my brain. And if she doesn't write it down, it's gone forever.
Yep.
You know?
The closest sketch that I felt comfortable in was Kids in the Hall. Kevin McDonald, Mark McKinney, and I'm just reading off names now because I'm on Google. Dave Foley, though they were all part of that sketch group, Kids in the Hall, which was pretty big. I think it was Second City that they all started at in Canada. But their style of doing sketch is mainly what I was trying to focus on, is that he came in and did an intensive with us. And it was less about writing out a sketch, but it was improvising to create a sketch, which was really interesting.
Yeah.
The idea is that they would just kind of workshop scenes and improvise. Yeah. And if there's something that was interesting about the scene, like a concept or a theme or whatever, they would take that and write it down and then workshop the idea and kind of create it out, which, I mean, is probably standard for other people that have done sketch, and maybe
that's all they taught at Second City was like that.
Got it. So then it's not breakthrough. What I'm thinking. I'm like, Kevin McDonald's a genius.
Yeah, you are. With our last intensive was with Anthony, and he was a director. I mean, that's what he did at Second City, and he would teach us all of how beats the beat sheets. I mean, it's just beat sheets. That's all he was teaching us. He's like, you don't have to have a fully thought out plan. Just know what your idea is and it'll flow. And that was like our final show for the intensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a pile of beat sheets that we put in a random order. And then he went up to the light booth and he was like, all right, let's do this. Let's go. And then he went through it like that.
Yeah, I feel that. I did one other sketch show that was for a Fringe festival, which I felt fine in that. I didn't write anything though. I just went off of what other people had already written because I was just like, I can get an idea and then I think about it and then I can't keep my brain focused on the idea. I obsess and then I'm like, that's not funny, because that's where I feel like when I was talking about earlier about giving yourself too much time to think about a choice. Me and sketch, that is too much time. I am thinking too much about my choice. If I had gone with my gut reaction, which is the method that the great Kevin McDonald has taught and invented, and nobody else came up with it. It's only him. Is being able to create it there and then kind of going off the beats there, like you said, like using that beat sheet. I don't know if we used beat sheets, but I think we kind of did break it down in that sense. So probably a version of it. I really don't recall, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was that exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like that's all.
My whole world is crumbling in what I thought was this great thing.
Did I just ruin the sunset vibes of that?
Yeah, it's just like taking Old Yeller out. It's like, come on, boy. And it's like, oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Real. And what was the Easter Bunny?
Well, I'd actually be okay if the Easter Bunny, like that thought was just that was gone. The Easter Bunny is terrifying.
He scares me so much.
There's never been an instant where I was like, man, I'm so glad the Easter Bunny's a thing. I've never had a moment. It's like at least Santa Claus has some redeeming factors. Easter Bunny's terrifying.
I wanted to ask, I like to ask people this, what is something I can't tell just by looking at you?
In like what regards, like about my personality or about
it could be personality, it could be like a habit, it could be an obsession, anything.
I feel like I've revealed a lot of my cards. I like reality shows a lot.
Okay.
I'm pretty into reality shows. More often. I've recently started watching The Bachelor.
Nice.
My girlfriend has gotten me into it. She's kind of at fault for it, but I do love like Big Brother and other things like that. I love cringe-worthy videos and other things like that. And just the worst timing of things. I think that's how I process sadness and other things. Like if it's an awful situation, I like have an uncomfortable laugh because I'm like, I can't believe that this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that could be still something you would think of. I
mean, I wouldn't be like, wow, them right there,
that guy,
there. They love reality shows. You can tell.
Yeah, I love people that are just themselves. They're just, it gives me an opportunity. I think I like it so much because it gives me an opportunity to see like other personalities of people that I probably don't interact with because I wouldn't normally associate myself with people of that nature. And reality shows give you an opportunity. And yes, it's obviously reality shows are still not ranked up. What's the word I'm looking for? Ramped up. Ranked up. That doesn't make sense. Ramped up to get the ratings with the producers, obviously trying to create other drama and stuff, especially on like The Bachelor and things. But there's still some different facets of people that are real moments that you can't even recreate. Like they're real honest to God moments that yes, they probably have to retape and stuff, but it just, there's something about it. It's like, oh man, there's emotion to that person. There's a real sense of guilt or a sense of like, how does that person laugh? How does that person cry? How does that person feel in general. It's like, okay, it gives me a little bit of an idea and some ammo to kind of utilize in characters I may create on stage. I'm not saying I
Yeah,
always do, but
100%.
like it
That's
kind
why I
of,
like watching reality TV. I'm like, oh, I could do something with that.
yeah.
It's real. It's a real reaction that they have, and you're like, oh.
I don't want to necessarily recreate the content. I want to recreate the feeling of that character,
Right.
or which is a person. But I mean, I want to recreate something that resembles that feeling. And I don't always remember it, but if I can remember it, I love playing those moments out because it feels exciting, because it typically is also different from a version of me. I think I like to hope that it is, but I can't always guarantee, and I get scared that it might be a part of me, and I just don't know it, and then it's coming out of me very slowly. But yeah, I just love it. Plus, it's such good trash TV to watch. It's just great.
Now I want to ask, what are you working on right now? How can people keep up with you?
Yeah, so I've been working on mainly Twitch right now, is the newest and most prominent project I'm focusing on. I recently made affiliate, which is not as difficult as I thought it would be. I mean, it takes a little bit of coercing people, of friends and stuff, to get you to 50. But once I got there, it was good, you know? So now I'm just trying to find other ways to improve the kind of layouts and other technical stuff, and try to revamp myself. Not revamp, but kind of train myself to be less reserved in a sense, and be more excited about stuff. Like there's definitely a learning curve in terms of like the stream performance, in a sense, because you want to have a balance of entertainment, especially if you're not great at a game, which I'm not always great at a game. I feel like I'm average to a certain extent, but I still have fun playing the games, and I have fun being able to hang out with people. But also, you're not going to have huge audiences at the beginning of Twitch streaming, and I may not ever get a big following, and if I do, great. I'm really excited about it. But for me, it's not about money right now, because it is a side piece. I really want to explore the performing aspect of it, and hanging out and see what creative things I can come up with. So I haven't really had an opportunity to put like everything into play that I kind of have ideas of, and I still have a lot more brainstorming. But yeah, that's kind
exciting.
That's my biggest project. And like I was saying, is like, I think that because I don't feel as confident about, like, I don't feel like I have a thing other than improv, improv is great. I mean, I still love that I have that as a big piece of my like talent, in a sense, or whatever. But I know that you need some more things out of it. And it's like, why not combine improv with my other passion, which is streaming, or I mean, not streaming, but video games. And so if I can utilize both of those, I could make another entertaining piece and entertain people while I'm still doing two things I really enjoy. So it feels like a no-brainer. It's just, like I said, working on conditioning myself a little bit to kind of understand where the balance is and what voice works in that medium, you know? So you can find me there. It's called It's Shrubzy, ITSSHRUBZY. It's a play on my last name, which is Bush, shrub. So yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this Talk About It Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to meet you. Like you came into the stream the other day, and we had a connection through my friend Jamie, who was on before. I work with her at the Comic-Cons, actually. That's how I met Jamie.
Oh, okay. This makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Who does Comic-Cons?
well, before that, I actually knew. I think Jamie and I met. I think maybe at the Comic-Cons, but her boyfriend Dennis and I met through Natura back in the day. Natura, which is was a coffee shop slash hookah bar near UCF. My other group, Penguin Knife Fight, which is actually why I'm wearing this penguin shirt. We started performing before I really made it into SAC. Sorry to go off on another tangent. I was wrapping up. But real quick, the Penguin Knife Fight was one of the biggest things that really helped kind of launch more of my improv career, in a sense. we were trying to find an outlet because we didn't make it to SAC. Some of us were just we had graduated classes, but we really didn't have anywhere to go.
Yeah.
And one of our friends, Crystal Gray, ended up having an opportunity to perform in this little coffee shop. And they had been doing it for about 6 months before I was invited to come join them. And we started performing for the next 5 years in that space.
Wow.
Before they eventually closed due to other management stuff that was happening there. But when we started doing that, one of our friends, Croy, started working for a comic expo that ended up turning into the comic convention that I've been working with. And we started traveling with them. It was in Tampa. Then it grew from Tampa to Tampa and Indianapolis. We all traveled together to go perform out there. They paid for our hotel and for our flight, but then, they weren't going to pay us anything else after that. But we ended up creating a small little improv dynasty in a sense. We started selling merch, actually. Here is one of our little penguin knife fight hats. We had shirts that we made. Then people bought it. And we started having the opportunities because that convention ended up expanding into 5 different Comic Cons throughout the US. And and so but Dennis was one of the people I met through friends and stuff. And I think he and I spent spring break of 2013 getting very drunk down in Fort Myers. But yeah, it was a good time. Yeah. Anyways,
awesome.
That was, sorry for the tangent, but I also want to shout out because that was Penguin Knife Fight was definitely one of the biggest pieces that really helped develop a lot of where I was, because it gave me reps and opportunities to perform. And, that I feel like that I felt like really helped in general is repetition and just doing shows and doing exercises with friends and doing it with a group that you love, because I think chemistry is a huge and important piece of improv. And if you enjoy the people you're performing with, you'll enjoy the stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, it becomes a family.
Yeah, they're definitely 10 of the closest people in my life for sure.
100%. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, everything with it. This is so fun. This was nice. So everything that Cody talked about during the interview will be linked down below in the description. So if you want to find him, you can scoochity on down there. If you would like to learn more about improvisation and the things that we do at This Is Improv, you could go to www.thisisimprov.com. We also have a podcast if you like histories, mysteries, and ghost stories of Florida. This is Legends of Yesterday. If you have a story of your own, you can definitely send it in to info@thisisimprov.com and listen to your story on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thank you guys so much for joining us, you beautiful creatures. Have some tacos. Have a beautiful Tuesday. Goodbye.
Bye.